Hello everyone, welcome to the ninth session of History, second chapter, Socialism in Europe and the Russian Revolution. We have already completed 8th session. So last time what we are discussing about? We are discussing about the First World War and the Russian Empire. Today we'll discuss another topic, that is the February Revolution in Petrograd. You can see in page number 35. Now there is a word Petrograd, because this is familiar word for us because we have already done in the 8th session. This Petrograd, this name was changed from St. Petersburg. Because why it was changed? Because the St. Petersburg was a German name. So that is the reason this St. Petersburg was changed into Petrograd, because at the time the German sentiment was running high at the Russian people. So that is the reason this name was changed to Petrograd. Last time we were discussing about the First World War. What happened in First World War? Again, there are problems. There are lots of problems that we saw in First World War. Now, before starting this topic, I'll just recapitulate a few points from this 8th session. After First World War in 1914, what happened? There came lots of problems. Now, what are the problems that came? You can see the life of people were getting insecure. That means you can see the people were dying. Not only dying, even what happened, we saw 7 million casualties, isn't it? And also we saw refugees increasing day by day. Not only that, we saw industries getting disintegrated. We saw many people fighting for breads. We saw many people rioting the shops and all, because there were shortage of food. What the people will do if there is shortage of food, isn't it? The people don't have any other options, because beside destroying the shops and all. And also we saw some problems in development of the industries. Development of industries also were disintegrated. Economic and societal problems were also not solved during this time. So there were lots of problems after this First World War. That means after 1914. Now in this topic, we'll discuss about the February Revolution, one of the most important revolution in this Russian chapter. I'll just read line wise from the book and explain you. Just be with your book, so it will be very easy to tally and go through it. What happened in the winter of 1917? Conditions in the capital, that means in Petrograd, that is St. Petersburg, were grim. G-R-I-M. Grim means you can say very serious, gloomy, stern. The layout of the city seemed to emphasize the division among its people. The worker quarters and factories were located on the right bank of the river Neva. Now, where is this river Neva? It is situated in the northwestern part of Russia. Flowing from where? Flowing from the lake Ladoga. It's a small lake in Russia that flows from the Ladoga and goes to the Gulf of Finland. And this river Neva is just 46 miles. Its length is only 46 miles. That means near about 70 to 75 kilometers. So what happened in this river Neva? On the left bank were the fashionable areas, the Winter Palace and the official buildings, including the palace where the Duma meet. In February 1917, food shortages were deeply felt in the worker quarters. The winters were very cold. There had been exceptional frost and heavy snow. Parliamentarians wished to preserve elected government, were opposed to the Tsar, desired to dissolve the Duma. Now, what happened? What was on the left bank? On the left hand side of the river bank, what was a fashionable area? Means royal people used to live on that side of the river. That means on the left side of the river Neva. And there was also official buildings. Royal people used to live over there, including the palace where Duma met. That means that there was a parliament. And on the right hand side of the Neva, what was there? Now it is written only left hand side of the river Neva, right? Now what was on the right hand side on the right hand side of the river Neva? What was there? There was a workers' quarters where workers used to live on the river right hand side of the river Neva. In February 1917, why food shortages were deeply felt? Because what happened? What we read on the 8th session on the First World War and the Russian Empire, we read that because the food shortage, why we were facing food shortage at the time? Because all the grains, foods were taken to the army in the war. So that is the reason the shortage of food were felt in this area. The winter were very cold. People could not cultivate anything. You can see in the Russia, it goes like -30, -40 degree over there. So people cannot cultivate the things, isn't it? No agriculture. So that is also one of the reasons that the shortage of foods and all. There had been exceptional frost and heavy snow. Parliamentarians wishing to preserve elected government were opposed to the Tsar, desired to dissolve the Duma. Now what this king, that means the Tsar, decided, he is now decided to dissolve the Duma, the present Duma. On 22nd February, what happened? A lockout took place at a factory on the right bank. That means lockout means strike. The next day, workers in 50 factories called a strike in sympathy. That means in 22nd February, what happened? A lockout took place in a factory on the right hand side of the bank. Now people, what happened at the time? The people were united. We saw many unions and all, isn't it? If something happens to one person, all the person used to come together, united. So what happened? When factories got strike, isn't it? So what happened? The whole next day, what happened? The whole workers, that means near about 50 factories, they came up to the strike in sympathy. That means Daya Maya, you can say. In many factories, what happened? Women led the way to strike. That means in this revolution, in this protest, many women came forward, who they led the strike. Now, this came to be called the International Women's Day. That means this day, that means you can say 22nd February, you can say 23rd of February. This day was known as the International Women's Day. Demonstrating workers crossed from the factory quarters to the center of the capital, the Nevsky Prospect. At this stage, no political party was actively organizing the movement. As the fashionable quarters and official buildings were surrounded by workers, that means the people who were staying on the right hand side of the bank of river Neva, they came to the left hand side to the fashionable area. That means where the parliament were there, where the royal people used to live there. What happened? The people, they crossed the river Neva and they came to the another side of the bank. That means left hand side bank of the river Neva. And what happened? They surrounded all the workers, they surrounded the official buildings. Now the government imposed curfew. At the time when people came and they started surrounding the buildings and all, what happened? The government imposed curfew. You know what happens in curfew, right? Demonstrators dispersed by the evening. When the curfew was imposed, what happened? The group which were protesting against the Tsar, what happened? They got dispersed. But they came back on the 24th and 25th. That means we can easily say 23rd was the day where they were protesting or surrounding the buildings and all. But on that 23rd evening, they got dispersed. But again, they came on 24th and 25th. The government called out the cavalry and the police to keep an eye on them. The cavalry means, you can say, the police and all, they come on horse and do duties, no? You can say in foreign countries they are doing horses and all, they were called cavalry. And the police, they called cavalry and police to keep eye on them. That means to look around the demonstration. On Sunday, that means 25th February, what happened? The government suspended the Duma. That means on 25th of February, on Sunday, the government suspended the Duma. Duma means parliament. In Germany, what the parliament was called? Reichstag. And here in this Russia, the parliament was called Duma. Politicians spoke out against the measure. Demonstrators returned in force to the street of the left bank on 26th. On the 27th, the police headquarters were ransacked. That means now the protest, those people who were doing protest, what happened? They were coming front now. They don't want to go back. They wanted to fight against the king. So that is the reason on 26th what happened? The demonstrator, they came on the left side of the river Neva. On 27th, what happened? They ransacked the police headquarters and all. That means they started destroying the police headquarters and all. The street thronged with people raising slogans. People started protesting in the streets and all with the slogans. What was the slogans? The slogans were about bread, wage, better hours and democracy. The very important part is democracy over here. Why people were protesting? The main reason was people want democracy. People, they don't want to be rich and all. They want democracy. Just they want what? They want bread, 3 times bread. They want a healthy, or you can say a good amount of wage as per their work. And also what they want better hour. They don't want to be exploited, because the king were making them to work 15 hours, 16 hours. They want 8 hours work. They want 8 hours work. So they were protesting against the Tsar for all these things. The government tried to control the situation and call out the cavalry once again. The government, what happened? They don't want to see people protesting. What happened? They called out the cavalry, police and all. What happened? To control the protest. However, the cavalry refused to fire on the demonstrator. The government, they ordered to fire against the people. But the cavalry, that means the police, right? They did not fire against the people. That means they refused to fire against the people, or you can say demonstrators. An officer was shot at the barrack of a regiment, and 3 other regiments mutinied, voting to join the striking workers. What happened? Now, because the first thing now, see, even like the police, armies, whatever in the country, the first thing is that they are the citizen of the country. They're also the human being. They're also the citizen. So what happened? The cavalry, they thought that we are citizen of the country. We should not kill the demonstrator, because they are fighting for the right of the people. The people, those who were demonstrating, they were not fighting. They were not fighting for bad reasons. They were fighting for the good reasons. So that is the reason that cavalry also, what happened, the police and all, they supported demonstrators. So that is the reason what happened. They started joining the striking workers. By that evening, what happened? The soldiers and striking workers had gathered. The soldiers, and what happened? By that evening, what happened? All the soldiers and the striking demonstrators, they gathered to form a Soviet or council in the same building as the Duma made, where the parliament and the king Tsar used to meet for the meetings and all. What happened? The soldiers and the demonstrators, they met in that Duma, that means in the parliament. This was a Petrograd Soviet. The very next day, what happened? A delegations went to the Tsar. That means like from the people, demonstrator and the police, they gathered, they started discussing about the matter, isn't it? So what happened? The next day, what happened? They went to the Tsar. That means they went to meet the Tsar. Military commanders advised him to abdicate. The commanders, military commanders, what he advised? So now abdicate, what do you mean by abdicate? Abdicate means you can say it is a type of resign. Abdicate means resign. So military, what happened? Commanders advised Tsar to abdicate, that means to resign from the king. He followed their advice, that means the king, Tsar, he followed the advice of the military commanders and the demonstrators. So what happened? He abdicated on 2nd March. Soviet leaders and Duma leaders formed a provisional government to run the country. That means to provisional means you can say temporary government. After when Tsar Nicholas, he abdicated on 2nd March. After that, someone has to run the government. So they formed a provisional, that means a temporary government to run the country. Russia's futures now would be decided by the Constituent Assembly elected on the basis of universal adult suffrage. That means like by a voting system. Now the future of Russia, who will decide now? By the universal adult suffrage. That means by people, the citizen of the country will decide the future of the Russia by voting system. Petrograd had led the February revolutions that brought down the monarchy in February 1917. What happened? So that is the reason it is called the February Revolution. This February 1917 brought down the monarchy rule. That means downfall of the monarchy rule. So that is the reason February revolutions that brought down the monarchy downfall. Understood? Now in this chapter, in this topic, not chapter, sorry, in this topic, we read about the February revolutions. What happened in these revolutions? Finally, the Tsar Nicholas resigned and the monarchy rule over. Now what will happen? Now what situation will come to Russia? Now we'll read these things on the next topic. Hope you understood. Till then, take care. Goodbye. Thank you guys.